Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I'm Jaime Rodriguez. I'm a games evangelist at Microsoft. And with me is Charla. He'll come he'll come on stage in a few minutes, so hold on for him to come on. But we're going to talk about using Unity to target desktop, Windows Phone, Windows Store, and Xbox today. So just show of hands. We have a lot of content, so show of hands. It helps me if I know who's on the audience. How many of you write desktop games? Okay, quite a few. How about mobile, which is tablet and phone? A lot. And console? Okay. Now, how many of you don't write console but want to hear about console? All right, that's good. We can balance the time as best as we can, right? The good news is, if you're using Unity, if you raise your hand only once, you should be raising it more than once, because with Unity, you're really 2/3 of the way with regards to taking your desktop game and target Windows Store or targeting phone or console. So that's a little bit what we're going to talk about today, how easy it is to get around and how quickly you can move your code back and forth through what we call the Microsoft Games Platform. Whoa. Just for context, I'm going to talk very quickly about tools. Then I'm going to talk about all these screens you can target. And then at the end, we're going to talk about programs where you have incentives and benefits for you so that you can target our platform as we go. So that'll give you some context of how far we are as we go for the whole hour. I'm going to leave questions towards the end so that we can have Q&A at the end and we can get through all the content. And I'm going to start with tools. So every time I come to a gaming event lately for the last year or so, I talk to everybody, and everybody's heard of Visual Studio. How many of you have heard of Visual Studio before? Right? It's a great IDE, right? Everybody tends to know this much. Everybody knows that it's a great editor, a good compiler. You know, we have great debuggers, project templates, and all kinds of stuff. But there's two things that they don't know. Are you okay? Okay. The first one is they don't know that since the last 2 years or so, we have something we call express versions of Visual Studio, and they're free. So whether you're targeting desktop or Windows Store or Windows Phone, we've had a free version of Visual Studio that is 100% functional for you to write anything that you need with regards to games. So that's something a lot of people don't know. At the end of this session, go check out the free Express queues, and you'll be able to see that there's a lot of great functionality out of the Express queues that you can use to target your games. And the second thing that nobody knows is that over the last 18 months or so, we've been doing a lot of gaming improvements, graphics improvements on our tooling such that you can have a much easier, much more productive time writing your games. So how many of you, just show of hands, have you ever heard of any of these features in Visual Studio? And HLSL Designer, Shader Designer. See, like 5 of you, right? Very few of them. Full graphics debugging. Right? Everybody's used to having to use XPerf and doing other things. So that's something that not everybody knows. And let me show you how easy it is to actually get through. So here, this is, actually, let me close this. This is our next demo. We'll just close it for now. So first of all, this is the Express version of Visual Studio. It's got a dark and a light theme. I left it on dark, so that's the default. You can choose which one you want. But I'm going to go right here, and this is the Express version, the one that you would use for writing Windows Phone and Windows Store apps. So I can just write here and say Open Project and navigate to say Angry Bots. You're going to see Angry Bots through all my demos. The reason I use Angry Bots is, number one, I have 0 creative skills. So if you see me paint, you're going to be embarrassed, or I'm going to be embarrassed, and you're going to be sad. And number 2 is Angry Bots tells you that I haven't tweaked the code. So everywhere where I've tweaked the code, I will let you know. For the most part, you're going to see Angry Bots all day, and I haven't tweaked the code at all. So I'm starting right here. Now, this is the binary. You can see there, everybody who's exported from any Unity PC or desktop executable before, that's the binary. There's a data folder. And I can come back here and just say, open that. Right? And now I can go in there and say, hey, let's go use the graphic debugger. So I'm just going to go debug graphics and say start diagnostics. And it's asking me. It launched the program. You can see it right here. It's running. It's running windowed. Now I can come back here, and just from within Visual Studio, I'm just going to say capture the current frame. And you see right there, it actually captured the frame. Let's capture one more frame. You see right there, it's actually tracking my frames per second. It's doing a lot of work. Now, capturing the frame is interesting, because then I can go in there. Let me go ahead and close this so that we don't hear it over and over. And now I can go in there and capture, see the frame that is captured, and I can go in there and see every single draw call that went onto that frame. Right? So you can see right here, I'm looking at every single draw call that went into the frame. I can walk here through any of the draw calls and see the full pipeline. You can see here my actual vertex shaders, pixel shaders. If I want to go in there and look at the HLFL that's running, I can actually run through that. And if something's not working, I can set debugging, I can set breakpoints and go through it end to end. That's the free tool. And I just showed you running it on desktop. Of course, you can do the exact same thing with Windows Store and phone. And you saw the capture frame. You could actually run it on phone, capture the frames, and then play it back later. Right? So you don't have to be juggling back and forth as you troubleshoot. Right? Unity's profiler is still excellent. I'm not saying don't use it. But every now and then when I have a shader problem, this helps quite a bit because I can get down to the nitty-gritty and see everything that I need to do with tools that are much lower level than what you get or what most people are used to. So again, that's Visual Studio. That's one of the things that we've done in the last 12 months. And I thought I'll open with that because not everybody's seen it or used it before. Another thing that we've done with regards to tooling, I turned on my phone to take a picture earlier. Sorry about that. I turn it on to take the picture, and now somebody's ringing me. Another thing that happens with regards to tooling that's really interesting is how many of you have actually heard of Unity VS? Did you buy it? Yeah. OK, you're going to be upset at me. So if you bought it, you saw the value. It used to be like $79 or $100, something like that. Well, recently, in the last 2 or 3 months, Microsoft actually went in and acquired Unity VS. So the team now works for us, with us. They continue 100% focused on Unity VS. And now we've integrated it into Visual Studio. And we have this thing that we called Visual Studio Tools for Unity. And you can go download it, and it's free. So for those of you that bought it, I'm sorry, we don't have a refund, but you've been using it for a while, so you got the value out of it already. Going forward, it'll be free for everybody. This is free for all our Express queues. So for Visual Studio 2012, 2013, and 2010, you'll be able to in there. As long as you have Express queue, you'll be able to get it for free. And obviously, going forward, we're going to see how we can do such that we can bring it to the other queues too. Unity BS has always been a pro feature. So that's it. It's only for Pro right now because we just acquired them, so we're still working on the integration. It's always been a Pro feature. So right now it's still, we brought them in, we rebranded it, but it hasn't changed yet. We're looking forward. I don't have the roadmap yet on whether we can integrate into Express, but trust me that I'll be yelling inside Microsoft as much as I can, telling, but people really want it. How many people want it? See? So that's where we're going to be at. So that's kind of a little bit of an update on tooling. I have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to give you a few kind of snippets on the tooling and what we're looking at there. So somehow this is going backward. With regards to mobile app, before I get into mobile apps, I want to tell you how we're doing on momentum. I actually did Unite North America last year, and it was really interesting because I think this slide, the numbers have changed, but it's about the same. And here's where we're at. If I look at it, year over year, over the last 2 years, I know I was at Unite last year, and I showed up and I told people, look, our users are growing 200%, literally, right? And then this year is actually 250%, so it's probably a little bit better than it was last year. So for those of you, if you're targeting phone and mobile, we do think now we have that mass volume where you need to get started. We definitely have more than 100 million active users. The mouse, somehow, something's making my mouse go back and forth a little bit. We definitely have more than 100 million active users now, where you can actually start targeting, and you can actually start making money from all those users. We're seeing millions and millions of downloads. There's a lot of apps out there already. So this is the time. If you haven't yet started for Windows Phone or Windows Store, this is a good time for you to actually get started. And getting started is very easy. You're going to need, see, I'm not doing anything, and it's moving. Right? Maybe I should turn this mouse off and see if that helps me. I'll just click here as much as I want. The tools to get started are free. Unity, you can use Unity free. If you have Unity Pro, the add-ins for Windows are free, so you don't need to pay extra. You can use the Visual Studio Express that I just showed you. For Windows, you need to develop on Windows X. We have 90-day trials, so that's plenty of time for you to port any game. I ported some really big games, and 90 days is plenty of time for you to port any game, right? So literally, you can get started for free. And later on, when I talk about the programs, we're going to talk about how you can get free devices, how you can get your developer account refund. It's only $19 anyway. So really get starting. It's going to be very easy, and it's going to be free. And you're going to see in a minute how. One of the things that I've changed since last year, since I was here last Unite, is the last Unite, we did an hour, and I spent half an hour talking to people. Oh, here's how you do it on Windows Phone. And we had a bunch of tips, and we did it, and we showed you a demo and all that. And then I was like, oh, here's how you do it for Windows Store. And looked 90% the same, but it was different. And today, the good news that I have for you guys is that we've changed our application model. And we still have everything, the old model where we had a phone and a Windows, if you want to keep it 100% separate. But we also have this new model that we call Universal Apps. And what it is from within Unity or any other project, if you're not writing a game, you can actually have one project where all of your code is shared, like between Windows Store, which is tablets, and Windows Phone. Right? So the concept of a universal apps. You do end up with two binaries that you submit to our stores, but it is 90% your shared code. So let me show you how that works so you can kind of see that in action. And see, this keeps flipping on me. Something in here keeps flipping, and that should be there. So here, same Unity Express, same Visual Studio Express. Actually, let's start from Unity here. So here I have Angry Bots in Unity. You're familiar with all of these. You've done your logic, you've done your magic, you got your gameplay, you're ready to export. So just go in here, click on Build Settings, and we have a new option right here. SDK is universal. And we have the options where you can say, oh, only target phone. If it says 8.0 or 8.1, that means it's Windows. That's the default ones. Or I can come back here and say, go ahead and do universal, and then I'll just build. And this is going to generate. I'll just create a new folder. Let's call it live. And I'll export it there so that I can walk you through the last one I created because these will take a minute or so to generate. So I'll walk you through the one that I created 5 minutes before this session. I disabled my mouse now, so. Open project. Well, that one, I'll show you the outcome of that one, but here's the one that we created. It's going to take a minute to process. And just say no. I'm going with the trackpad. That's why I'm fumbling over here. So here's what Unity will output. They're going to output this thing that looks like here. It's 3 different solutions. One of them, or it looks to you like 3 folders. One of them says shared, and this is where your game is. Everybody, if you've ever done a Windows game, you know that your game is that assembly C#. And so share is everything where everything's going to be shared. See, it already generated the folder there. So it actually worked, where now I got the exact same folder. I'll keep walking you through this one. And then it has 2 different solutions right here. Windows 8.1, right, and Windows Phone 8.1, right? But these are both pointing to that exact same share folder, and that's where my game is. So now I have the exact same logic, and I'm targeting both platforms, and I don't have to do anything extra. Obviously, you'll be able to do any kind of native integration with the stores and everything else that you want to do per platform, but it's one binary, one game for you to test, exact same logic. Performance improvements on one will benefit on the other because underneath is the exact same DirectX platform, is the exact same Windows platform on the phone than you get on the tablet, right? So we're much, much better. It's much easier for you to do that. If I wanted to show you here, I can just say, this is the Windows Phone. It starts with Windows, so I'll just go ahead and show you the exact same game. Let's make it master. And I can just go back there, just click Run it on local machine, and you'll see the game come up. I'll tweak the configuration there to go ARM or to go to the emulator in a minute, and you'll see it, exact same game running in there. No tweaks, Angry Bots as you get it out of the box. And everybody here's seen it. I can see keyboard, right? I can use mouse, which I can use touch. Right, so Angry Bots, as you know it, right there out of the box. I come back here, and I just go into that exact same project. Oh, come on. and just set my startup project to be the phone. I'll go back and do the exact same thing where I have masters and deploy to the emulator, and you'll see it come up in the emulator. Exact same game. You'll be able to build it once in Unity, compile once, and just export it to 2 different platforms and submit it to our stores. So that's one thing that's changed since the last year. And it's right there. So exact same. I can go in there, do touch, I can do mouse, I can do everything. So, oops. Cool. Let me stop it, otherwise we're going to get. The sound is cool, but it keeps firing every 2 minutes. So. Come on. Why does it keep shifting? There we go. We're going back. Now, porting your game. This is where we're going to get deep into some of the things that we've learned, or as far as we can go into some of the things that we've learned from the last year. Over the last year, we've done a lot of porting, right? We ran these portathon events, and everybody comes, and here's what happens. And you might hear these stories a lot. We run these portathon events. Everybody comes. They bring their game. By the end of the day, like one day, the game is pretty much running, right? So it's easy. It's just like porting to any other platform. If you have done your logic where you actually abstracted yourself from the native implementations or native dependencies on the platforms, it's going to be very easy for you to port your game. Now that said, you're still going to have a little bit of work to do. We have to worry about the hardware, right? Our phones, obviously, we have lower-end phones, like with lower devices than in a lot of cases than other platforms. You have to worry about the input. If you're targeting the desktop, you have to worry about the keyboard. Very simple stuff that's going to take you a couple days. It's not going to be months worth of work, but it's also not going to be an automated thing where you can go in there and say, oh, look, I just exported to the next platform and done. Right? The areas where we've seen people struggle or people see a little bit of needing a little bit of help where we can make some progress is on the plugins. So with regards to porting your games, porting your logic and all the hardcore like porting your shaders or any of the porting your code, it's going to be very, very straightforward, and we have guidance from you at Unity's website. We have these pages. There's only 2 white papers, one for phone, one for Windows. If you're doing universals, read the one for Windows because that's the application model. And that will take care of most of the things that people run into with regards to porting their games. It's like a 20-page document, very it's detailed enough that you'll get into most of the things that you're going to run into. So it's going to be very, very easy. The one area where we're still growing is in our ecosystem. You'll bring your game, and depending on what plugins you're using, we might or might not already have your plugin. We're working a lot with the plugin vendors, so if there's any plugin vendors in the room, come talk to me afterwards if you're not targeting Windows Phone and Windows Store already, because we definitely want to talk to you and make sure that you do the tweaks needed for you to integrate with our platform. And where we're at right now, we give you a lot of ad payment options. We give you a lot of the cloud services options where you can get, analytics and, login and, any kind of Facebook integration, social integration, et cetera. But this is an area where we're still working on. And then obviously we take care of the higher level or, the kind of UI toolkits like NGUI or 2D Toolkit or any of the most popular ones. So this is an area where we're still working on. This is an area where when you bring your game, this will be the one thing that I could tell you, depending on what plugins, that might be a little bit of work for you to get there or not. But overall, we haven't seen anybody get stuck. We haven't seen anybody not find a replacement for the things that they were looking for. And one of the things that we've done is actually partner with Prime 31. And we actually went to them and we said, hey, there's a set of essential plugins that we think everybody should have, right? So when they come to Windows, you want to connect to our store. Right? So Prime 31 now has free plugins for you for Windows Phone and Windows Store so that you can go in there and connect to the store, show ads, connect to Azure if you want to connect to the cloud. And then they have this essential pack where they can give you live tile and push notifications and a bunch of the stuff that you think it's common for our platform that you want to light up. We give you a lot of those for free. So that's about $400 of worth of free plugins if you were to use every single one of our plugins. And they're available for free for the whole year. So just go to their website and download it from them. And that gets us, as you think about your game, Porting the logic is easy. Thinking about how you're going to monetize is something that we're still going through in the Microsoft platform. We're still learning. If you think about monetization, there's at least 3 models that are common, right? People can advertise, people can do in-app purchase, or people can just do it download to own. And this is an area where Microsoft is still evolving. We've seen kind of our platform iterate and evolve. And this is something that I want to, as I looked at what are the top lessons learned that I could give you, rather than me talking to you about the shaders, I'm going to tell you, hey, here's what I see that you're going to need in order to succeed. In our platform right now, people are still making money off advertising, right? And there's a reason for it, because we have trial. I'm going to talk about trial in the next slide. So advertising is an area that you should consider. If you're thinking you have an in-app purchase game, that's an area where we're still growing. But download to own, in-app purchase, and advertising are a little bit more even compared to other stores. So this is something you got to think about. You'll have the slide. You can go back and do a little bit of trial and error for your game, because every game, obviously, the gameplay will be a little bit different, so you might see slightly different results. But we do have people making a lot of money off advertisement, and we also have people making money off download to own. The download to own, the one thing, the reason why we think it's better or people are making money off of it is because on Windows and phone, we have the trial APIs. Right? So if you have your game and you want to say, hey, I want people to try it for a time, a week, 30 days, whatever. If it's time limited, you don't have to write a single line of code. You just go into the store, you select the time, and that's it. Right? We do the rest of it. So you can just submit your game, say, I want people to try it for 48 hours or 7 days or whatever. And then people will try it, and when it expires, we'll prompt them and say, do you want to buy it or not? Right? And people can then buy it and give you the money. Or they can opt out of it, and then they won't be allowed to run. The system takes care of all that for you. So for us, download to own is an area where we're still seeing a lot of money being exchanged. And the reason for it is because through trial, people can really go in there, try the game, and make sure that they like it before they actually pay it. So they're willing to spend a little bit of money. For example, in our store, when we started Windows 8, all of our games were $1.49. Like, we didn't have that 99-cent bar. We do now because we've converged our store with Windows Phone. But when we started, people were doing $1.49. All the games were $2.99, $3.99. And as long as somebody got to try them, I don't mind paying $2.99 for something that I already played with for half an hour. And I say, oh, yeah, this is pretty cool. So this is something where you're going to make money. You can take advantage of these if you try it out. So the next one that I think is an interesting tip that a lot of people miss as I help developers move onto our platform is that localizing and making sure that their game is available worldwide. When you come to Windows and Windows Phone, a lot of our market share, like if you're in the US, you see Windows Phone and it's small market share. Going to Europe and you see double digits in many, many countries. Going to Latin America and you see double digits in many countries. Go to China, go to India. Right? So when you submit your game, you need to make sure that you're localizing. English, Spanish, French are very common. So for example, on Windows, those are the 3 more common languages. On phone, we have a lot of phones in China. So that's an area where, again, we're getting a lot of downloads. So as you think about your game, just make sure you do a little bit of that extra work to localize it, and then you grow your market exponentially. So that's an area where you can look at it. Right? 75% of the Windows Phone app downloads are in non-English languages. So that's a big market. If you've published your game and you did English only, that's a big piece of the market that you're leaving behind. So that's literally what you need to know with regards to coming. I want to invite you to join the club. We have a lot of the big publishers already, Disney, Rovio. We have a lot of the guys coming in there. These are all Unity games, and you see the ones you see at the bottom are the most recent contents that we did. The winners were announced today, right? So that's why you see a few that you might not recognize. Those are all pretty good games that you can go in there and play either on our store or in other stores potentially. So that's where we're at on mobile. Now, another thing that we've added in the last year is Xbox One. How many of you saw the announcement a couple weeks ago about Xbox One and Windows? Unity? Right. So where we're at with Windows or with Xbox One is very straightforward. Unity now has fully functional tools. You can export, you can do everything in order to do end-to-end with the games. We're still working on the tools. They're still a work in progress, but today you can definitely go in there, join the ID at Xbox programs, get your tools, which are going to be free. It comes as part of the ID at Xbox acceptance, along with your dev kits. Chris is going to talk about those things. And then you get started on the tools, and you can publish your game. So we're already there with Unity. Let me show you what the flow looks like there. So I got a slightly different device here. This is Unity 4.3.7. So over here I was running 4.5.3. If you're going to target Windows Phone and Windows Store, by the way, you really want to be on 4.5.3, the latest version. Unity has gone a long way from a year ago where we launched on 4.2 with regards to phone and Windows Store. We went from the platform was there and it was complete to we've added a lot of those really nice features to now we're really optimized, we're tweaked the memory, we've done a lot of work in 4.5.3. So on the store side, you want to be on 4.5.3. On the console side, they're on 4.3.7, and they're going to skip that whole 4.5. They're going to go all the way to 5. So for a little while, you'll be on 4.3.7. But here it's Angry Bots again. And here I have the exact same thing. I just go in there and from Xbox One, I select to deploy. We have two models, a push model and a pull model. Push just goes in there and literally copies your game onto the console. Pull would be kind of let's pull from the console. Let's start playing the game and pull assets as needed. It's a little more, it's more efficient and optimized. So for you, if you're going to iterate a lot, that's actually a good model. But today I'll do push just because I'm worried about the network. So let's see if this one works. So right now this is actually pushing here. I'll switch back. So this is actually, I did a build and run. I did do build and run, right? It's a what? Just build. All right. I'll trust you. That's the one thing I needed to remember. So I was remembering that, and I have to remember there's like 12 options here on which switch to switch to. So this is coming up on the Xbox. I don't have a monitor for the Xbox, so I'm just going from luck. Ooh, did it fall asleep? So that's Xbox, and it's still building right now. So fingers crossed, and in probably 30 seconds, you'll see it launch. If it doesn't, we have a backup game there. We're going over their Wi-Fi right here. But see right there, I'm not touching it. That's actually deploying. Debugger and everything works. So I'm over here. I can put breakpoints. I can do everything in there. And you'll see Angry Bots. It's the exact same Angry Bots. The only thing that I changed, and everything's functional here, so I can move around. I can function. Fire everything. The only thing is a different preprocessor. So literally, I went in there and changed the preprocessors from Xbox 360 to Xbox One, and that's all I had to do. The game is fully functional. Now, with regards to Xbox One integration, we want to give you more APIs, so we give you the plugins. Unity is actually shipping the plugins for you, and here's kind of where they're at right now. Achievements, leaderboard, gamepad. The reason they're near gamepad is because they have Rumble. Friends, game DVR, console, you can read through the list. We're pretty far along with regards to the plugin. There's a few that are still coming, networking, for example, encryption. All of these things you can write on your own if you want to, but Unity will have them on the roadmap as you go for the next version. And again, our next version is Unity 5. So that's kind of where we're at with Unity. There's actually a session at 6 o'clock today from Unity engineers that are working on these plugins, telling you how they're doing it and getting deep into how you can write your own plugins. And with that, I'm going to move towards the programs. And I thought you would want to hear about the Xbox program first, so we let Chris go first. Chris runs the ID at Xbox program, by the way.
Hey, I'm Chris. I run the ID at Xbox program, yeah. And you can see this is just a little bit about the program. Basically, ID at Xbox is our program to enable independent developers to self-publish their games on Xbox One. I'm not going to read all the bullets, but you can get the general idea. And just in terms of our program goals, like why we started the program, everything like that, we ultimately we want players to have just a huge variety of content every time they turn on their Xbox One. And also, obviously, for developers, we want to create a really good, sustainable development ecosystem for you guys. We want a rational marketplace. Not every game's going to be a hit. Not every game's going to get you a Ferrari. But we want good games to sell more copies than we want good games to sell copies, and we want to make a marketplace where you can make a great game and sell a lot of units. In terms of how we run the program, we try and be as transparent, as open as possible. We're under harsh light a lot, on Twitter, and we're happy to be there. We're that kind of feedback, criticism from you guys enables us to do better, and we're always trying to do better with this program. And then lastly, it's a developer program, but we have incredible support at Microsoft from our PR department, our marketing department. We have dedicated PR and marketing resources for our program. And so we work really hard, even though you're self-publishing the game, to make sure your game gets the kind of promotion and it deserves. So we do everything from, some of you guys might have seen on Twitter, we just announced we're doing an open house at Microsoft next Thursday. You're all invited. And we're showing off about 25 different ID at Xbox games kind of on the evening of PAX. We've had great support in terms of Dash. So most of the ID at Xbox games that have shipped have been featured on the Dash. There's a little promotion thing that's been there since the ID program launched where you can see all the ID games there. So it's been really good, and we've had some really good sales success from independent developers already. I think we launched our 14th game this morning. So we've already we've had some good success. So what does the program get you? Once you apply to the program, and you are accepted to get dev kits, we send you 2 dev kits for free. It's a long-term loan, but you can have them for a long time. Obviously, all the documentation, forums, and free Xbox One add-on for Unity. And if you don't have a Unity Pro license, we can get you an Xbox One only Pro seat license for each of those consoles. In terms of cost, what you need to pay Microsoft is pretty cheap. And probably you guys know this, but it's just there was so much buzz in the last year about cost for certification or cost for updates. So just really want to hammer this home. It costs nothing to join the ID at Xbox program. You don't pay a cent to submit your game for certification. You can update your title as often as you like. There's no charge for title updates. It is free. We just want rad games. And in terms of where the games are in the store. We made a really important, I think it was important, philosophical decision as we were getting ready to launch Xbox One, that we did not want to have an XBLA section or an Xbox Live indie game section. That on Xbox One, a game is a game is a game, and that a game that comes from an independent developer, whether it's a one-woman studio or a 30-person studio, is just as valid and as important as any other game. And so all the games on Xbox are in the exact same store. That doesn't mean that we don't do special promotions for the ID games. Like I said, there's one on the dashboard right now. But at the core level on Xbox One, all games are sold in the same store. And we think that's just a really important philosophical point in terms of how games are moving in the future. So then kind of the key question is, how do I get my kits? How do I join the program? This slide kind of explains it in a nutshell, which is that every single developer is judged on their own merits. But right now, we actually announced the program almost exactly a year ago, and we are focused initially on professional developers, developers with some experience shipping on console, PC, mobile, or tablet, developers with evidence of a game that's clearly on its way to some success, whether it's had a successful Kickstarter or something we look at, if you've been featured in an indie game showcase like IGF or Indiecade, that kind of thing. We are broadening this program as fast as we can. I wish we could broaden it faster. I wish we could not have to curate who gets kits and have to look and say, these guys, and just send everybody kits. But right now, that's not where we are. So we're working as fast as we can, and yeah. And then I think the next slide is going to be the same slide with Xbox branding at the bottom. And then now just what are the games like? We're going to see if this works. I have a feeling that it is probably not going to, but we have a video here that is not going to play. But I encourage you to go to YouTube and just search for ID at Xbox. We just did a trailer at Gamescom. That's what I was going to play, is just some of the games that are coming through. We have some amazing, amazing games coming from developers. I think we have huge, I want to reel off a stat here. I think more than 60% of the games that are coming through the ID program right now are using Unity, so it's kind of cool. So that's it for my section. I'll be back up to take questions, and I'll be around at the end to take any questions anybody's got.
Sorry about the video. We know the Wi-Fi is a little bit, we know we have to juggle a lot of stuff here with the Wi-Fi as we go. Here's a new program, or a different program. It doesn't have a fancy name. This is one thing that I was just thinking about as I was hearing him talk. So now this needs a better name. Because actually what he just told you is actually here for anybody that's going to target mobile, like phone and Windows. We give you about the same benefits, but it doesn't yet have a name. We need to work on that. If you're targeting phone and Windows, you can actually get, we have a different program, and it's got 2 or 3 different levels. For level 1, you just come back to us and say, look, here's my game. It's published on iOS or Android, because most of you have something to port. Or here's the game that I'm working on, and give us the comps or give us a binary of it. And then if you get approved, you'll get the Windows license. You get a $100 asset to the a $100 voucher to the asset store for Unity. You get a free device. This can be a tablet or a phone, so you can test it. Obviously, you get your registration. And then you get kind of a priority review for the store promotion, so that when you submit to the right stores, we can go in there and say, oh, this is one that's in the program. Let's go review it. Let's give it, I wouldn't say we give you the benefit of the doubt, but it definitely increases your odds by being in that list that gets reviewed, right? So you're not out there on your own. That's for level 1. The games that we get in there that we like, they can actually get pushed a little bit towards level 2, where you get a little bit more. Level 2 is you get everything in level 1. But just for putting your game in there, you get 1 million ad impressions where people promoting your game, right? So that's a pretty good number for you to actually get seeded, get started, get that viral buzz going. You get a second voucher. This one's to the Microsoft Store. So you can go in there and buy more hardware or do something else. And then here you actually get placement in the Unity Gallery as one of the Windows games. And obviously, this time you get priority review for the store promotion. So this is you're a little bit farther ahead, where if you're in level 2, you're likely going to be promoted on our stores for a day or 2 or something like that. And then the last thing that we've done, which is really exciting for us, is that we don't have like thousands or a huge number of submissions. So here, every month we pick 3, and then we go to Chris and say, hey, Chris, we think these are worth you reviewing out over there on the ID at Xbox program, which is a good way for you to get off the queue. Chris announced the program, the ID at Xbox program, a year ago, and I think in a month he probably got 10,000 requests, and he's still processing those requests, and new ones are coming in. So this is a good way where, as he goes back and he said, hey, we're looking for people that have established themselves as hey, I ported a PC game or a phone game. This is a good way for you to get that visibility. And so that's the program. If you want to learn more, wpdevcenteroffers.com is the URL to go in there and follow. And it's very, very easy. Like you go in there, you fill in a form, and then you get your devices, and and you get everything you need to get in there. The last one that we have is this one. Again, is one of those things where when we talk to studios, I get these a lot, right? We talked earlier. Somebody asked about Unity BS, and they said, "Oh, Unity BS is not available in the Pro version of." It's only available in the Pro version of Visual Studio. Well, Microsoft has all these programs. If you're a student, we have something called DreamSpark. If you're a small startup or a small studio, right, we have something called BizSpark, where like 90% of the people in the room are just at the high level guess. If I was to profile you right now, I would say 90% of you would probably qualify for a BizSpark. It just says, hey, you got to be small, you got to be 5 years or less, right? And then there, what you get is you get free tools, free copies of all the OSs. You get free, $150 worth of free Azure, so cloud compute every month, right? You get all these benefits. You get promoted. You get, promoted to accelerators, and you become a candidate for funding and everything else. So we have a lot of programs that we can come back and say, hey, let's help you succeed. We want to make sure that you succeed, and we want to make sure that you're out there, getting the most out of what you can get. And that's it for us with regards to where we're at. So I want to remind you, we have 3 stores. They're open. And at Microsoft, we're looking for you to come to our platform. We want you to develop on Windows, and you want them to develop for Windows. And Windows means phone, it means Xbox, it means PC, it means everything. So that's it. We left enough questions for all the Q&A, so you can go ahead and ask now. And Chris will come up, and we'll take as many as you need to. So thank you very much for coming, by the way. So. Yep. Which, oh. Yep. Any questions? Go ahead.
So, when are retail Xbox Ones going to be able to be used for dev?
We have not announced the timing yet on that.
You can repeat the questions.
Oh, sorry. So the question is when. So we announced. Well, actually, I think the way it actually happened is it leaked before we announced Xbox One that at some point retail kits would be able to be used as dev kits, and it was confirmed by Mark Whitten at the time. And since then, we haven't announced any timing on it. We've just said that it's on our roadmap, and that is exactly what I'm going to say right now. So I wish I could give you more detail, but unfortunately, I can't right now.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
The timeline on Smart Glass, how long are we going to wait on that one? For like Unity integration into Smart Glass to be enabled?
Oh, interesting. Unity integration with Smart Glass. So I don't have a time. So the question is, how long are you going to wait for Unity integration with Smart Glass? I don't have a concise timeline. I know that it's already in progress. So if I was to guess, I would probably say it's in the month, 2-month time. But I don't have a too concise timeline. Come to me afterwards and give me an email address, and I'll get you the more accurate answer. All of the plugins that we listed and mentioned, these are things that we are already work in progress. We're far enough along that I could announce them. Otherwise, I would have been like, there's things on the roadmap that I was like, oh, if it's not in the next quarter, we probably shouldn't mention it. So we're far enough along. So, and again, those are things that you can do on your own. The APIs exist. So it just comes down to who's doing the wrapper for you. If you wanted it today, there's APIs in there that you could go in there and do it on your own today. So, go ahead.
Are there ways to, for phone stuff, phone store, are there ways to blacklist given devices or require certain features or certain processors?
Yep.
Things like that?
Yep. That's a great question. So we have a few minutes, so I'll chime in into some of the things that I think, because those are in the important documents that I told you. So on phone, where we're at is like this. This is what I would tell you from an advice point of view. Phone, we have kind of low memory devices and high memory devices. Low memory for us is 512 meg. And that's pretty much how we differentiate. Then after that, you go into any of our phones, which are 1 gigabyte. Most of our new phones, like, anything that is shipping now, it's usually shipping with higher density, like 1080p, 2 gigabytes, most of them. So for us, where we differentiate on the hardware is in low memory devices, because some of the games we give you, if you're running low memory devices, your game gets 180 meg to run. Comparable, say, like if you're running an iOS ranges in the 200 megs to 250 meg too. So it's not that different. And yeah, we give you a switch where you can, in your manifest, so without having to do any extra logic or anything like that, in your manifest, you go in there and say, hey, I want to opt out of the low memory devices. So you can go in there and say, I don't want to be on low memory. It's just one line on your manifest, and then that only when somebody goes into the store, if they're in one of those low memory devices phone, you wouldn't even show up. That said, don't do that. Try to squeeze into memory, because there's a lot of low memory devices out there. So it's one switch, it's one liner, you don't have to write any code. We also give you APIs so you can detect. If you're managing your own memory, we give you APIs so you can detect and you can say, oh, I'm running on a low memory device phone, I'm maybe going to load these asset bundles instead of these, or I'm going to tweak my gameplay this way such that I can manage my memory a little bit better. Of course, at that point, you're writing a little bit of extra logic, but we give you both. So, and that's the only place where we kind of differentiate. Everything else, our phones are pretty concise or pretty consistent. We actually have only 4 different resolutions. So our really old phones are 480 by 800. And then after that, 1020 or 1280 by 768, and then 1080p. So we have 4 resolutions that we help you target. So with regards to screens, it's very straightforward. It's all 16 by 9 or 16 by 10. So it's very easy for you. And with regards to hardware, all of our phones have what we call a minimum chassis. So they would all have an accelerometer. They would all have specific sensors that you can count on. And then after that, you can start doing light up with some of the fancier phones that might have a better GPU or anything else. So, go ahead.
I'm seeing a lot on the internet about the Windows Store being full of a lot of apps that are either just straight up crap or that are almost fraudulent, I'm thinking. But is there anything that you guys are doing on your side to help make sure that quality apps and quality games are floating to the top and
Yep.
kind of getting all that out of the
Yep, that's a great question. So to repeat the question is, what do we do in the store? How do we manage our store such that the better game titles go up to the top, and anything else stays near the bottom? So there's two parts to that. On our stores, we do have a team that curates the content. We look at ratings, we look at downloads. We have, I can't say it's the same algorithms that everybody else's, because obviously everybody else, or I don't know how everybody else's works, but we have the exact, we follow similar patterns. We see similar patterns as we would have. There was an article this week, I think I saw the same article, that kind of said, well, or the way I read it, it said, well, Microsoft doesn't enforce, the trademarks, is the way I said. Like, they use BLC as an example. And that is the one thing, and I don't have the full answer yet, because the article was on Monday. But I can tell you that I work with a lot of the major publishers, and the way it works is pretty simple. If you have a trademark on your game, if you have like an Angry Birds, Robbie emails us and says, hey, Jaime, we want to delete these 5 Angry Birds or whatever, and they file something. The main thing is that we cannot proactively, when somebody submits a game and they call it Angry Birds, we don't have a way to proactively say, oh, that's not the real Angry Birds, take it off. So people actually have to go in there, fill in a form, and then it gets taken up pretty rapidly after that. So that's what's happening with BLC, where they hadn't done that, and therefore there's a bunch of apps that had the exact same name. But on the store, we're definitely curating. We're definitely making sure things that we promote are high quality. It's all manual. There's a human involved in validating a lot of those with regards to the things that we curate. Apps flow to the top based on the same algorithms: downloads, quality, ratings, and everything else. And then I'm sure we will have some sort of way to look at trademarks going forward after that article, but I don't have the answer today. It was on Monday, and I've actually been over here for the last 2 days, so they might already have the answer, and I don't. If anybody has a question on that, feel free to come afterwards and give me your email, and we'll get you an answer. So, go ahead.
Do the Windows phones and tablets have a way to support like an Xbox controller or anything?
Yep. So on Windows, like again, when you write a game for Windows through Unity, for example, the input becomes pretty seamless, right? On Windows, you can use gamepads, so I can use my Xbox controller on Windows. Right now, the support it's at the driver level, so this is at the OS level. The support varies. So, for example, all the Xbox controller works fine. Other hit controllers, it's a hit or miss, and we're working to improve on that. But yeah, on Windows, it's seamless. Like, you plug your Xbox controller and you can play your game. Unity abstracts all of that for you. And if you're looking at the platform, our whole platform, like Unity, is building on top of DirectX. So if you're lower level and you know about X input, it's the exact same APIs that we use across all the platforms. So yeah, that's seamless. The other thing that we do there, if you're thinking about sharing between Windows and phone, input from mouse and touch is the exact same. So we actually aggregate it. If you write a game that can work really great with touch or with mouse, it would automatically work great with touch. We abstract all of that for you, such that game and touch, you don't have to do extra work. And that obviously carries forward as you get onto the mobile platform. The Xbox is seamless because there you have the game controller and it's all there. If you saw there, I had a plugin for Gamepad, and everybody else is like, why do you have a plugin for Gamepad on Xbox? For Rumble. That is the one thing where the little vibrate when you fire. We call it Rumble. I think it's the official name. So that's what it does. So we have the plugin to do that one feature. Everything else works out of the box. Exact same controller, exact same keys or input as I would have on any Unity game. So, yep. Throw Chris a question. Somebody the next one's got to go to Chris. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
One of the things we're running into is we're making civil USA projects, and a lot of things we're running into is DLLs calling into .NET, and we're this subset problem where phone doesn't have this call, but store has that call, but it doesn't have this other set. Are we gonna try and get that to a normalized set so both of them have the same levels?
Yep. So let me reword the question a little bit. And this is a common thing. And like I said, last year I was here and I spent all my time telling people differences between phone and Windows. With Universal, now you're coding to one object model and you can target phone and Windows. And then the second part of your question is, as you're moving from a different platform onto the Windows Store or to Windows Phone, you have this migration where you're running on Mono on iOS or Android, and then on .NET, or when you come to our platform, you're running on .NET. And in some cases, there's a few APIs that we had kind of, I wouldn't say deprecated because they're still in .NET, but in our Windows Store and Windows Phone APIs, we no longer use, like collections, because we call them more modern APIs when we move to generics. Unity has done a pretty good job now. So I don't know if you're running 4.5.3 like I mentioned earlier. Unity has done a good job at filling in those gaps. And they have to do that because on the Microsoft side, we're looking to fill those gaps too. But obviously, Microsoft ships a little bit slower than Unity. So on that side, we're doing our part to fill in the gaps as we go. And then Unity has created this new DLL called WinRT Legacy, where they're starting to fill in a lot of those. The caveat with that, it goes back to the plugins. You do need to get those plugins recompiled, because if there's, you can have 10,000 lines of code, and there's one offending line, that can ruin the whole thing. So it's something we're working on. I think we've gone a long ways. 2 days ago, we had a portathon here where people brought in their games, and literally, I think 95%, we probably had 30 games there. And 95% were able to pour very quickly within, with no delays. Whereas a year ago, depending on when you started, the API differences were more significant. So we're getting better. It's not perfect. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, we've solved it already. It's something that Unity has done a really good job at getting you that 90% of the scenarios, and then we are working on our side to get the extra 10. But it's going to take us until the next OS or until a major update to be able to plug that in. 100%. So go ahead.
Is it with the Windows Universal, is that goes to phone and a desktop? Is that as a Windows Store app where you don't have to compile like to normal Windows 8.1 executable, or because there's that the Store app has a different API than just a desktop, right?
Yep, exactly. So to his question, and I'll reword it a little bit. So it's like, hey, what do you target with Windows Universal? So universal apps today are actually Windows Store and Windows Phone. Desktop is still a different API. Desktop has the full .NET. That will be the superset of Mono, and desktop hasn't changed. I looked today. That's why I gave you the tools part of this presentation, because I was like, what do I go tell them on Xbox and desktop? And desktop has been so solid forever. Right? Any game that you want to create on desktop has been possible for many years. That's where people play so many games on desktop. So I gave you tools because I was like, oh, this is something that's desktop related that can make some news. But yeah, Universal right now is actually phone and Windows Store. And then we've already said that it's coming to Xbox. So again, that'll take a little bit longer. It's not there today, but it's coming to Xbox. So we're very committed to making sure that that carries through. Yep. So I'll answer in two parts. What you said is, well, we've done already that. We've done that already, and one thing you said is the one area where we got stuck was networking. And feel free to come afterwards and let's exchange. One of the things that we've done actually like last month is WinSock was something that was missing from phone. And about 2 weeks ago, we announced that with Windows Phone 8.1 Update 3, we're giving you back the WinSock API. So this is one of those examples where we're going in there and looking at the areas where we said, oh, it's not, I don't know if it's fair or not, but somebody at Microsoft thought, oh, nobody wants to use WinSock anymore. And therefore, it wasn't there. And then, we're going back to, oh, yeah, well, now we have the data that says they do. So we just recently announced, if networking was your bug down, come to me afterwards. We just announced WinSock, so that might unblock you. And if not, let's exchange notes, and we can get you a little bit more help on the networking side. Yep.
The Windows 8 Store, is that only for RT applications and games, or can you also deploy desktop games through it?
Yep. So the Windows 8 Store, or what we call the Windows Store, because we're now in Windows 8.1. Windows 8.1, it's RT devices, and also anybody that's just running Windows 8.1 on an x86. Like here, these are two Surface Pros. I use them as desktop, what you saw today, but if I go back here and you can see here, this is running, this is straight up Windows, and any game that will run here on Windows Store, you can put it here, right?
Yeah, so for instance, only for the store, can you deploy games that are normally desktop games?
Yep. So yes, today you can. So like you can actually go list them. Where we are today on desktop apps or games on our store is this. You can go into if you have a desktop game, you can go into a store and submit it, and we have a special form, for desktop apps and games. And what we do is we list it. So therefore, if somebody comes and searches for it, they'll be able to find you, but they don't download it from a store yet. So what we do is you list it and you say, oh, if somebody comes and looks for my game, send it to my website, and then from there we send them to your website, and that's where they buy it from you. This is something we're working on to improve where they can download it from our store.
Okay, so in the meantime, we have to put our own paywall in there.
Yep.
I think you could even link to the Steam page or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you want, like you can go to Steam, you can, wherever you want us to link to, we will link to. But right now, yeah, the download and the taking the payment, we don't do it today for desktop apps. It's something we're working on. So stay tuned for more news on that, and then we'll tell you how far or where we take it. So, go ahead.
So we have our Xbox dev kits that got delivered. But the problem is we had to move to 4.5 because of WSA, but we do want to get it on Xbox One. Is there any way we can get that happen, or do I have to go back to an older version of my project and build it up?
So I'll be like, let's touch base with, if you give me your card, I can ask some of the Unity guys that we work with. I don't know how easy it is to go back. I do side by side, so for me, or fortunately for me, I started early enough where, side by side works fine, so you can have both versions of Unity sitting side by side. I know what you're saying where, the project structure and everything else. I don't know how easy it is to roll back. Come afterwards and I'll get your card and I'll try to get you an answer directly from Unity. Because I don't have an answer how easy it is to go back. But right now what we're doing for anybody who's doing the development on both is side by side. So.
And also, how much difference is there between Xbox and a Xbox One? So a 360 and a One. How much difference do I have to put in my code in order to get it? Or is it just a One?
That's a good question. It varies so widely. So the question is, how much would I have to change my code from Xbox to Xbox One? I could answer in the short term, like Angry Bots, none. I went in there and switched the preprocessors because it's a different preprocessor. It's Xbox 360 on one and Xbox One on the other, and everything works fine. But obviously, it depends on what you're doing in your game. The plugins are all different. So I guess if I was to give you a fair, kind of my guess is there's definitely a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but there's definitely some changes with regards to the plugins and all the native functionality that you're going to have to swap. So, yep.
Xbox, but how much difference is it between the 360 and the One itself? Are they all basically the same, or?
Yeah, at that level, they're both running on the same Unity. They're both running on top of the same, obviously Xbox One has better DirectX or newer DirectX object models and stuff like that. So performance and the hardware will be better, etc. But if you're just looking at apple to apples, again, Angry Bots runs on both. It just comes down to what you've done with your game. So. Anything else? Chris is here. Come and talk to us if anybody has any more questions. We brought him because we know, with ID, it's always good to connect, have you guys exchange information. And if you want to hear about the mobile program, we can do the same here. So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.